And I hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to the kickoff of Backstop Week for the Payne Fellowship Program. This is the first in a series of four Backstop Week discussions that we're going to have. This is to really help you learn a little bit more about this career pathway, these amazing Foreign Service officers and the work that they do to change people's lives around the world. This is for the U.S. Agency for International Development. The Payne Fellowship is a pathway to a career with the U.S. Agency for International Development. My name is Eureka Huggins. I'm the director for the program, and we're so happy to have you join us today. Just very briefly, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of what the Payne Fellowship is about. So the Payne Fellowship Program is named in honor of the late Congressman Donald Payne. He was the first African-American congressman from the state of New Jersey. Congressman Payne was a true humanitarian at heart. He cared a lot about the people from his constituency, but he also cared about individuals all across the globe. And so for that reason, this fellowship in his honor is truly an amazing fellowship, and we are here to really keep his legacy alive, the Payne Fellowship Program. It is a graduate fellowship program. Again, it is a pathway to the USAID Foreign Service for a career. And one of the goals for the fellowship is to attract outstanding individuals who have been historically underrepresented in the USAID Foreign Service. And so we're happy that you're here to join us. Basically, really quickly, the fellowship provides up to $104,000 for 2 years of graduate school. For each year, $24,000 goes towards tuition for your graduate school, $18,000 academic stipend, which you spend hopefully on your books and your rent, and also for each summer up to $10,000, which will be spent for the first year you come into Washington, D.C. for 9 weeks of special placement on Capitol Hill. This is to allow you to understand how Congress function, the role of service to the American citizens. 1 week is also spent in orientation to understand how USAID functions and the goal, the structures, and so forth. Then for the second year of graduate school, another $24,000 goes towards your tuition, $18,000 goes towards your academic stipend, and another up to $10,000 for that summer between your first and second year of grad school. That summer, you will be placed overseas at a USAID mission to work alongside Foreign Service officers in the career pathway that you have chosen. Tonight, you're going to hear from our colleagues who are the experts, who are the Foreign Service officers who work in the field at USAID missions across the world. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Carl Rockman, who has an amazing, outstanding, long-standing career with USAID in multiple capacities, including a deputy mission director. He's served all across the globe, but he's also now he's come back to share his great experience and to support USAID in the Foreign Service Center as one of the coordinators for the C3 coordinators who come on board USAID. He's also one of the individuals who is a strong advocate for the Payne Fellowship Program, and he has served in the selection panels, and he has served in many different capacities within that whole selection of the Payne Fellows. So Carl, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you to welcome our dear colleagues from USAID.
Well, thank you very much, Eureka. As Eureka said, I've had a long and really extremely enjoyable career with AID. I did 32 years with the agency, 27 of those overseas. I began as a health officer, moved into crisis and stabilization, and now I'm serving as the coordinator for the junior officer recruitment program. And primarily focus on finding assignments overseas, the first assignment overseas for our new officers. I also am the assignment and career counselor for health officers, crisis and stabilization officers, and humanitarian assistance officers. But enough about me. I will say that the career that you're hopefully giving consideration to is one that is extremely gratifying and rewarding, and you'll be very fortunate to be selected and join this program. We have representatives from three different backstops today. We're going to deal with the executive management backstop, the contracting or acquisition and assistance backstop, and the financial management backstop. These backstops are very important because they are executive management team support backstops. In every mission, these officers and those positions of responsibility are part of senior management's core team, um, and they have involvement, cross-cutting involvement with every operation and activity that the mission is undertaking, both in managing the money and contracting our support partners and granting our support partners and managing the operations of the organization. Um, so let me start first. I'll turn it over to Simone Duncan, who's the backstop coordinator for the financial management um, backstop.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, but a little louder.
Okay, let me turn my volume up then. So I'll introduce myself, just give my bio, and then I'll go into the actual financial management officer um, information. So I'm Simone Duncan, as Carl mentioned. I've been with USAID for 15 years now. Prior to USAID, I started my career in the private sector where I worked for an accounting firm and then later on media conglomerate. So I've been with USAID, like I said, 15 years. I started my career at USAID in the Office of Inspector General, which is an independent office within USAID. And then after 8 years with that office, I transitioned over to become a financial management officer. And within that role, I've served in two different missions. And now I'm on my third assignment where I'm mainly in Washington, but my role is as a backstop coordinator is one role. And then I have some other roles where I have special projects. And as of right now, I'm in the Philippines helping the financial management office to determine staffing as the mission is trying to expand to two additional missions. And so I'm helping that office to determine different agreements, different staffing, what's needed for that particular undertaking. So I will go over and sort of explain a bit about the financial management officer backstop. I actually don't have it all memorized, so I kind of have to look at notes. So if I look like I'm reading a bit, sorry about that. So what does a financial management officer do? So as a financial management officer in a mission, what we're responsible for all financial management operations. We also serve as a senior advisor. I think Cara mentioned this, to not just the front office, but all the different technical offices within the mission. We also work with the host government and also serve as an advisor to whatever host government we're working with. But essentially, our responsibility is fiduciary responsibility to the U.S. taxpayers to make sure that the funds that are being given to different countries are being used for its intended purpose. Um, and our roles are very dynamic. We oversee operations. And one day we can also go meet with a host country government to determine help our for example our health office to determine what program would be needed to help a particular province, or how can we I guess design a program that would help the beneficiaries. Um, and we also maybe figure out help programs or help offices figure out, if they have $100,000, how can we stretch that limited resource to reach as many people as possible. And so then we have different I guess categories that I would say we can um, compartmentalize what we do. So we we can become we're advisors, and so for example, we would be an advisor to a technical team, letting them know, okay, what are the risks for implementing a particular program? We also would meet with the different offices. As I think Carl mentioned, we don't do anything alone. We kind of have a big team. So we would be on a team trying to help a team design a particular program and help that team determine, okay, how do you design the program and the financial impact and what funds to be able to use to make that program a success. Another compartment that we are also required to as our job is in an overseas mission, we are a lot of times co-located with the State Department and other agencies. So we coordinate with the State Department and try to make sure that our employees and our programs are properly implemented. So we work a lot with our counterpart on the State Department to make sure that operations for our missions are, I guess, on track. So that's one part where we coordinate with interagencies. We also provide financial services. And when I say financial services, we're responsible for developing budgets, helping offices to build a budget for staff or operations within the mission. We also, whenever there's a new program that USAID would like to implement as part of, so for example, if we are working with an NGO that's new and we would like to have that NGO implement a program, our office would work in collaboration with the contracting officers and the technical offices to go out to that particular NGO to assess whether they have systems in place to be able to properly manage USAID's funds, and not just to be able to manage USAID funds, but also making sure that the programs that the the NGO is implementing is actually meeting the needs of the beneficiaries. So we would, as a team, go out and basically assess that particular organization to determine if that organization can implement the program, but also safeguard USAID's funds. Um, in that same breadth of financial services, we also would do that kind of work when it comes to if USAID wants to give a government money directly. We also have to then work again. It's a cross-cutting team. We would go out to that particular ministry and meet with the different individuals to determine whether they have proper systems in place to now again manage USAID's money. The financial management officers take a different sort of a lead in this role because it's now government to government, and we are usually sort of one of the core teams that's leading the assessment to determine if that government has systems in place to again manage USAID's funds. But then the technical teams will come in and then determine if that particular, I guess, province or government has the technical capacity to again implement that particular program. So those are like services that, like a financial services type things that we would do, and we're not just like looking at systems, we're interacting with different individuals like CFOs and treasury ministers and stuff like that to have dialogue and conversations to make sure that at the end of the day that whatever program USAID is asking that government to implement, it's going to be a success. Another aspect of our role is like we're also responsible for ensuring that USAID missions overseas, that we have proper internal controls in place, and that we're also following certain financial compliance requirements. Like with every organization, you have to make sure you have proper internal controls in place to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to implement is implemented successfully, and it's benefiting the people or whoever it is that you're trying, whatever objective you're trying to accomplish. So we play a key role in trying to make sure that the mission has internal controls in place and that those internal controls are actually working. Another aspect of our role is we're also responsible for we're not responsible as part of our role. We also partner and with not just governments but also other UN based type organization where we're building relationships with other donors to, again, at the end of the day, all of us have the same objective. We're trying to help a particular country or the people of that country to have better health care or better education or whatever it is the program. But as I guess development professionals, that's our objective. And then lastly, obviously, as a financial management officer, you're working with a team. So most of the missions overseas, you might have to manage about maybe 10 or up to 50 staff. So you have to serve as a mentor, you have to serve as a coach, you're working to develop other financial management officers to make sure that they are also as successful as you are in that particular role. And so those are like some, I guess, buckets of things that we do as a financial management officer. And I know one of the big questions is like, well, what's the education qualification? So for a financial management officer, you would need a minimum of a bachelor's degree, and a bachelor's degree in, it can be business administration, it can be finance, public administration, economics, accounting. But the key part of it is that you would need 24 accounting credits. So for example, I am major in accounting, I have a CPA, and then I also have a master's. But my master's is in international business. But within my undergrad degree, I acquired the 24 credit hours. Obviously, if I'm a CPA, I naturally would have the 24 credit hours. Um, and then lastly, I would say some people always ask about like what are the critical skills that's needed to navigate this particular position. Um, I think I would say leadership skills, interpersonal skills, having great I guess customer service skills, being able to write and be able to communicate clearly, verbal, communicate, I guess, in as an accountant, we use a lot of technical terms, but to be able to break those terms down into like regular everyday terms that anyone would understand. Um, and to be able to, we're working in development, so you have to be able to adapt easily, and to be flexible because things can change at any moment. And so you have to be able to adjust to that environment. But like I said, the key thing is being able to, I believe, like lead and communicate, because most of the time you're talking to, ministers, you're talking to mission directors, you're talking to individuals from the State Department. So a lot of being able to diplomatically communicate with individuals and work cohesively to come to a conclusion. You may not always agree, but you have to be able to um, work through difficult situations. Yeah, and building relationship, um, as you're probably on this call, like I work with Leela and I will probably work with her in another mission. So just maintaining relationships. I also work with Carl, so just maintaining, being able to maintain relationships as you navigate the career. Um, yeah, so I think that is it. Is it? Did I cover everything, Carl?
No, I think you did. I mean, basically, um, it's the core function. I mean, as you said, you have responsibility for oversight of U.S. government funding and making sure it's appropriately used, that is appropriately documented, and that you avoid fraud, waste, and abuse. I mean, basically, yeah, you got it.
Oh, there was one thing that I think she did ask. You wanted us to give
An
an
example.
example, right?
You got the annual budget.
The annual budget. No, so I'll give an example of something that I worked on right before I left South Africa. And I'll try to not use any acronyms. But so our health office wanted to work with one of the a big province in South Africa to actually give money directly to the government to implement one of their health programs. And so, as a controller and our team, we went out to that particular province to meet with the treasury as well as that particular health department to then discuss, how can we as a team give you money and then you implement the program. So our role is to then, again, I think I mentioned earlier, is to assess if that particular government has the systems, the infrastructure, not just the systems and infrastructure, but the right people in positions to implement the program. Because obviously, if we go out to a province and the HR director is running finance, then we might have a problem. So we look for that information and make those observations to make sure that the right systems, the right people are in place to implement the program. And so we did that. And we had a lot of back and forth. I mean, it was very I guess engaging because you had to work collaboratively with the various individuals to not just determine that they have the right systems, but also help the health office to figure out what's the best mechanism. Do we want to give this government money and then just let them do the program, or do we want to design like milestones and say, okay, you do A, B, and C, and we pay for A, B, and C, or do we want to just have them use their money and then reimburse them? So that was like a program that where it's we're not doing regular operations, but instead we're working collaboratively with another government to implement a program. So I tried to like explain it without actually giving any acronyms, so hopefully it was understood. But that was something that I worked on recently before I left South Africa to help our health office implement what we call a government to government program.
That's great. That's very good job. Well, I'm going to talk briefly about the executive office or the executive management function. Um, as you know, well, maybe you don't, USAID is one of several agencies that are formed a team overseas, U.S. government team overseas in a given country. The ambassador is the overall head of that team. He's the chief of mission, and all U.S. government direct hire personnel are under chief of mission authority. The executive officer is the primary liaison with the embassy team, and they work together in terms of assuring common functions that need to be carried out. There's logistics, the transportation, both arrival in country, um, uh, travel within the country, um, transportation to other countries. They organize the transportation logistics, security. Um, Again, we're under Chief of Mission Authority, but an evolving world out there in terms of security, in terms of the state of personal, operational, and agency security. So they work with the embassy, the regional security officer, the embassy security team. Housing, there's a housing pool. I mean, when you're overseas and under the chief of mission authority, uh, your support is the requirement of that embassy team. Your housing, um, your importing of your goods and effects that you are going to flesh out your housing. They and purchasing of the equipment and the furniture and everything. That's again an executive office function. Um, they also are responsible working with the embassy on communication. Obviously, a key factor in today's operations in the world is being able to communicate. Your network, your equipment, your communication, security, and everything. Obviously, with hacking and all kind of attacks on our communication systems, it's an ongoing, constant job, both assuring that you have communications in your office, at your home, and when you're traveling, because you can't deal with security without being able to communicate effectively. And then um, all of the embassy operations, the facilities. Right now, we're in most cases we're co-located with the embassy, and we're all our office operations are there. But in most cases, we have satellite facilities for um, storage, for special services and operations and everything. The executive officer is responsible for overseeing that, and the teams of workers that manage that, the repair staff, the warehouse staff, the transportation staff, the communication staff, the security staff, the facilities, operation and cleaning staff. All of those are under the supervision and operation of the executive office. And that's on the kind of business side. But at the same time, the executive management team provides support for the core function that we have, and that's to deliver development assistance to our counterparts and host government representatives and everything. And so, again, if we need to travel up country or to a regional area, if we need to establish an operational base in a regional operation in terms of an office and housing and were in place, resident staff are maintained. The executive officer provides that support and assures, again, across the board, the security, the communication, the housing, and the logistics, the facilities. Um, Again, obviously, everybody who has a home deals with utilities, air conditioning, electricity, water, sanitation, and everything. The executive office, they are basically the management team that assures that all those services and facilities are in place. Uh, and as I say, they are part of the mission executive team because if it relates to training, they're responsible for organizing and putting in place the training budget. They have a smaller warrant than the contract officers, but they also do procurement for administrative supplies and operational supplies for all their different functions and everything. And so, in every aspect of mission operations, you have the executive team. They probably have the largest staff of any office in the mission because of the various functions that they have. And they have um, exposure throughout the country. We have programs that are local in the national capital. We have programs that are at the regional level, and we have programs at the farthest and most remote locations in the country. Um, I can't tell you how loyal and thankful and appreciative you become to those logistic staff that put your life and your safety and your comfort first when you go off to these remote locations and everything, that you're totally in their hands, their direction. Um, it's it's the job for someone that has a multitude of interests and um, can manage multiple tasks at the same time, because they are working 24/7 to promote the safety, the effectiveness, and the security of our team. One example, as I say, we we had to build. We were in Afghanistan. We were providing support to a dam, and it was at the top of a mountain, as dams often are. The operational house and everything, and it was in a remote area, it was insecure, at the along a river, and so there was a road up to the dam, and then there was a perimeter wall, and there was a security, and we were replacing the turbine. I don't know if any of you visited one of these huge dams like the Hoover Dam or Aswan Dam and everything. The equipment and the materials that they use, that they need to operate these things, are humongous. I mean, they're just incredible, right? And so we had to bring in a new turbine in the middle of a shooting war. And so they had to hire a Russian helicopter, because the the turbine was something like 30 tons and everything. It couldn't fit inside of a helicopter or any other vehicle, and the only way to get it there through this hostile territory was by air. And so they hired this huge, I guess, 1960s era uh, super Russian helicopter that was kind of held together by rubber bands and scotch tape or whatever else. And and they hooked this thing up and took it up the mountain and dropped it in there and everything. But the executive office was the primary liaison and agency responsible for putting that whole plan together, working with the military, working with the contract team, working with the counterpart um, officials at the Russian embassy, working with the host government and everything. So they are involved with everybody, and getting in and out of the country. I forgot, you got you've traveled, you got passport control, security, customs, and everything. They are the expediters. They get you and your family into the country and out of the country. They get all your effects and affairs into the country, um, in one piece, and without you having to stand online for weeks and everything waiting. So if kinds of responsibilities, the kinds of skills, as I say, you need to be, multi-interested, multi-talented. But degrees, public administration, business, um, international development, human resources. They come from a variety of technical or academic backgrounds, but they are involved in everything. I guess I'll stop there, and I'll move it over to our yeah, again, the people. We are a contracting agency. We don't do anything unless we have a contract in place to get it done, and that contracting team, they keep us running. So I'll give it over to Leila.
You're muted, Layla.
Layla, you're on mute.
Thank you. And as always, the contracting officer and the contracting team is always bringing up the rear to make sure we bring it all together and eventually we can sign off on everything. But I loved hearing about Simone and Carl's experience with the agency as well as the roles that they play. I'm Leila Perry. I am a Foreign Service Contracting Officer. I've been with the agency for 14 years. And one thing that I hold true to is being able to provide a service and to help others. And in my role as a contracting officer, working along a team that brings it all together, we're able to bring support and to impact a person's life in a very positive way. And as a result of that impact, not only is that person's life impacted positively, but then it spreads out to their family, their community, to their region, and it just starts to really glow, to see um, how well we can come together to provide services to people, by way of organizations that otherwise would not have access to any of the services that we provide. I'll pass the baton on to Anna. She is a C3, as we've referred to them, a contracting officer that's been with the agency for less than 5 years. But Anna will give you more detail about the backstop as a whole, and then I'll circle back and provide you with an example of a project that we've worked on. Anna?
Thank you so much. Nisha, can we share the PowerPoint presentation, please? It's a very tough act to follow after the presentation's given, so I'm going to try to do my best. This is actually not my first time presenting to prospective applicants. I'm really, really happy to be back. I'm sorry I'm recycling this from last year, but it's the same information. If we can go to the second slide, please. I want to tell you a little bit about this backstop. It's actually, I like to call it my dream job. And I also like to call myself an honorary Payne Fellow because I applied in 2015 and I made it to 6th or 7th place. And at the time, they only accepted 5 people. So you're very lucky if you're watching this because you have a higher chance than I did. However, I still went through probably the longer route to get here, and I'm here as a proud contracting officer. So just to piggyback off what Carl and Laylee and Timoon were saying, and to bring it back together, as was said, how does USAID implement its programs and its projects abroad? We do it through mainly 2 mechanisms, but there are others that keep the agency running. That's why we like to call ourselves in the Office of Acquisition and Assistance in different missions, the heart of the agency, if I may. And we do this through contracts, or acquisition is what the term is, and also through assistance, which is through grants of different sorts. Simone mentioned fixed amount awards, for example, but we also have cooperative agreements, renewal awards, etc. So this is mainly how USAID does its business. We give contracts, grants, cooperative agreements to a wide range of partners, implementing partners on the ground, from NGOs, private sector, etc. There's also other mechanisms that are government to government or host country contributions. But those are really out of our acquisition and assistance realm, though there's still contracts and they still follow many of the same rules. We, as contracting officers, mainly focused on the bulk of contracts and grants. I have a little piece of information here, which is a fun fact. A USAID contracting officer manages 4 times more than contracting officers in other federal agencies, an average of $65 million annually. And this is why we need you. We need a lot of hands-on because there's a lot of development programs that need people with a very wide set of skill sets. But I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. The last information I just want to point out here is that USAID Management's Bureau of Office of Acquisition and Assistance executes an average of $20 billion in worldwide contract grants and cooperative agreement through over 20,000 transactions in a given year. And that's on average. Next slide, thank you. So who are we? We are business advisors in a program life cycle, from even the beginning stage of a program, when we're thinking about what kind of programs, what kind of needs are there, we are involved. We call ourselves business advisors because we are supporting technical backstops. We're supporting the health backstops. We're supporting the agriculture and food security backstops, the environment backstops, etc., throughout the inception of an idea that we want to fund via a contract acquisition or an assistance award. And we are able to accompany these technical colleagues of ours throughout the process, and also advise them on which mechanisms are the ones that will bring the most success to the programs that then we will enter business with implementing partners. Also, another very fun fact that I love, and that makes this contracting officer position one with great responsibility, but also with a lot of influence, is having a warrant. We have warrant authority. Contracting officers for all federal agencies, not just USAID, work very hard in their first years, like myself, to become warranted, and then throughout our careers to keep the federal rules and regulations in order, if you will, so that we ensure that the taxpayers' money is being used accordingly, and that we are really having an impact in the way that the U.S. government intends to have that impact. And I think I've covered that. So next slide, please. Nisha, next slide. Did I lose anybody?
Looks like it's stuck.
Yeah.
Naisha?
Yeah.
Okay, there goes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, so what's her background, right? Because we're not health officers, we're not environment officers. We are contracting officers, and that means we come from a wide range of backgrounds. We have lawyers, we have managers, we have people that come from the private sector, from the public sector. Personally, I come from being a contractor, a previous implementer. I worked for different implementing organizations, not just for that contracted to USAID, but other federal agencies. And this is why I wanted to be on this side now as contracting officer, so I can have a lot of influence and say in how we do development on the ground. And being a contracting officer, you are part of those award conversations. You're part of the how, the why, the which mechanism makes sense for an organization, for a country, etc. So if you see here, and if you see also, there is an open application for contracting officers currently on usajobs.gov. You'll see that we really are multidisciplinary. We have we accept all graduate degrees, and what is becoming ever more important, especially as we are part of the entire mission, program, and project lifecycle, are those soft skills of leadership, of strategic and detail-oriented thinking, being a people person, of course, being multicultural and enjoying language learning, because language learning in USAID is not a joke. We go through a lot of training in how to communicate professionally, politically correct, And it's a very rigorous process to become tenured in a language, which you must as a new foreign service officer. And then depending on where you are posted, you may have to go back through much training in language. So it's always very exciting in that regard, but this all requires flexibility, adaptability, and all of these soft skills that maybe a graduate degree will not necessarily always reflect. So having both is very important for our backstop. And of course, there's a relevant experience. And this is not an exhaustive list, but most importantly, we need people who are ready to manage, to supervise others, to learn about procurement, contracting, who of course have a background in some international space, and if not, on assistance in countries. So AmeriCorps, other volunteering experience in country from the US will also be relevant as you get ready to go abroad in an international field. Next slide, please. This is just a big picture of where COs are around the world. You see, we're in most missions. Again, this is where we need more contracting officers because there is a lot more demand of contracting officers than we are able to fill right now. But again, we are at the heart, and we are the heart of how we run these missions. So it's very important to have diverse, qualified applicants for this backstop. Next slide, please. And just a little bit about myself, I did say this was outdated. I served for a year in the USAID West Bank and Gaza mission. As everybody is very well aware right now, there is a major conflict going on in the region, and USAID there really was the conduit for the entire American government to be able to support the Palestinian people and also bridge differences with the Israelis. And it was the biggest honor of my life to have served there as my first post. This is just some background information on what kind of work is done in that mission. I will just highlight that I was able to work and bringing, for example, two small women-led organizations from the West Bank of Palestinian women and from Israel. And they today are doing an amazing peace-oriented project that's really being used as a reference framework for what we are continuing to do with USAID in the midst of so much division. I will just say currently I have been reassigned to work in the USAID Peru regional mission, where I oversee the whole Brazil portfolio. Very different from this portfolio. It's environment focused, and it's coming back to the roots for me. I know Portuguese. Remember when I said language is important? Thankfully, I learned French as my tenure language for USAID. I knew Portuguese, and I am a native Spanish speaker. So those things came together when this position in Peru, when I was leaving West Bank and Gaza, just opened up. It was a new position. They needed a CO just because we're in great demand in all missions. And Brazil was a mission that needed a contracting officer. And so here I came, and I have worked already on many impactful programs and projects. I will just highlight the one that I am personally so far most proud of, which was being able to respond to the floods that happened in Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil just about 2 months ago, and being able to respond to a public international organization, the UN's International Organization of Migration, so that they could respond right away to the needs to these um, to the people affected. And how I worked and supported that organization, as well as the two organizations in Israel and the West Bank was again by accompanying the technical um, managers in developing the right type of award and writing the award and executing that award and now overseeing those awards. I'm overseeing the one in Brazil now, but I oversaw also the one in Israel. So I'll leave it there because it's been a lot of information, but I will pass it back to um, Layla, who
Yeah.
has a lot more experience than I do, and I'm sure can give countless examples. But I'm sure she's picked the best, and this is a great way to end the session. So I'll pass it back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you covered everything, Anna. Thank you so much. I think from the conversation that you've listened to, both from Anna, but also our colleague Carl and Simone, you have a pretty good idea as to the work that we do. But there are some underlining themes I want to highlight. As each person spoke, hopefully you picked up on the fact that we all consider ourselves business advisors, whether it's the controller's office, the contracting officer or office, or the XO, the executive management office. We all consider ourselves business advisors. We also work together, regardless of the type of project we may have assigned to us. At some point, our paths definitely will cross. As a contracting officer, we do have the ability to actually work with every single backstop and every single technical office that's at any mission. So on any given day, as was noted, I may work with a global health office on a global health project. I may work with an environment team on an environment project, or a democracy and governance, and trying to pull together a peace agreement of some sort. I may actually work with the education team and helping to develop an education program that will be implemented where children and adults that have disabilities are given an opportunity to be trained so that they could have a job, right? In a world, sometimes those individuals would otherwise be overlooked. But the point is within USAID, it's an opportunity to work together, come in, build your career. I love the fact that through this Payne Fellowship, you're able to complete a graduate degree. We will welcome you with open arms, and you'll have an opportunity to touch on a lot of the work we talked about today. We have a Payne Fellow in Backstop 93 who just finished his first summer working abroad, living and working abroad in Kenya, and he had a fantastic summer. He's now back in the US and he's headed into his second year of graduate school. But it was an incredible experience to listen to him talk about his experience working in Kenya, being able to not only work alongside a contracting officer, but also to go out on a site visit to remote areas within Kenya, working with a technical team to see the work actually implemented. And that's what we call a full circle moment. In the office, we may be looking at paper, contracts, negotiating them, eventually signing them. But the real work is done in the field where you have an opportunity to impact the lives of human beings. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton back to Eureka. And thank you so much for considering our backstop. Backstop 93 contracting officers.
One thing before Eureka
Go
takes the
ahead,
mic
Carl.
again, I just wanted to say that these three support Backstop: executive management, financial management, contracting. They still are part of our shortage Backstop categories. We're recruiting actively in each of these backstops, and we would welcome applicants to apply for these areas. One example of how the three of us all work together, um, as I think Simone had mentioned that one of the roles of the financial management team is when we do grants, as Anna and Layla mentioned, we do grants to local organizations. But in order before we can do grants to them, we have to certify that they're capable of effectively managing USAID funds. And we actually help build grants up. I mean, organizations from the ground up sometimes. I mean, like in the United States, um, we have non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations. These are community groups or special interest groups that organize to provide support that's not available through regular government channels or private channels. But these are community, what do you say, philanthropic type activities where people donate and contribute to them and everything. But oftentimes they don't have the management depth, structure, and capacity that's required to effectively manage our funds. And so we will pull together a team, the executive management office, the financial management office, the contract management office, and we'll go in and provide advice and counseling of how they can build those functions effectively within in-house and become effective partners for USAID. But that's just one example of how we all work together, both doing our own function and also helping deliver U.S. government assistance to our partners and beneficiaries. And I'll turn it back to Rika now and let her close out the program.
Yeah.
Wow. Look, all I can say is that this is the glue that holds the mission together. And when as you heard from our colleagues, these amazing colleagues at USAID, the work that they do to make a difference in people's lives is not a little task. It is a huge task. And every aspect of it, they're not shut up in a room somewhere. They're engaged with each other in the mission. They're involved in all of the backstops, all of the different career paths. They're involved with the governments from those countries. They're involved with international donors, the communities to put together the best package. So this is an exciting group of Backstop. They are the glue, and I want to encourage you all to please consider these backstops as part of your career for USAID. And that way you'll get a chance to work with these amazing colleagues of ours. So remember, go on. We're going to have this video posted on the Pain Fellowship YouTube, but also go onto the USAID website and look at the work that they are doing all across the globe. And then come back to the Pain Fellowship, look at the various backstop, but also look at the qualifications, the university partners who work with us on these on your master's program for these various backstops that we have here: contracting, finance, control, the executive officers. And think about it very seriously. So thank you so much to Carl and Leila and Anna and Simone. Simone is in the Philippines. That's how serious she is. She's
Thank you, Simone.
Anna is in Peru. That is how much they love their work, and this is how much they really support the Pain Fellowship. And Carl is a long-standing support, and Leila, of course, always pushing for us. So thank you again. Visit our website, www.painfellows.org. Also visit USAID website, www.usaid.gov, and send us an email if you have any questions at painfellows@howard.edu. The application cycle closes October 24th. We are here to answer questions. We have a series of webinars that are coming up, including this salon talk, looking at what life is like as a someone identified as female in the foreign service, single, married. However, we're going to have those discussions. Barbershop talk is also coming up. Carl, we're going to see you at the barbershop talk
Absolutely.
again. And what is life like as a Pain Fellow? So look on the website. Thank you again. And thank you to my colleagues, these amazing individuals who are making a difference in people's lives all across the globe. Thank you so much. And thanks, Naisha. All right.
All right.